Hey, we're going to look at the last two of our ABCD. We looked at sin can be activated by anger and pride. Looked at that. We looked at sin can be broken by doing what is right and good. Looked at that. Now we're going to look at sin can be close, like right at the door. And D, sin can be driven by deceitful desires. Let's look at those two things today. We pick it up in Genesis chapter 4, the end of verse 7, where it says, God's saying, but if you do what is right, inviting Cain into awareness, into doing good, but if you do not do what is right, so he just kind of flips it around. If you do what is right, you'll be accepted. But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at the door, and its desire is contrary to you, or its desire is to have you. Two different translations there. Sin's right there, close at the door. The door kind of represents two things: proximity, close, and vulnerability. Here's what I've learned about sin. You pick whatever sin you want to pick. The author of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 1 says, throw off everything that hinders. That means even things that are not sin. Recognize there might just be things that make you more vulnerable. Throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. He's saying, pay attention, be aware. Be aware of what hinders you. Beware of what entangles you. Proximity, vulnerability. The deal is this. If there is accessibility, if you can get to something that you're vulnerable to, drugs, alcohol, too much money, sex, you fill in the blank, whatever it is. Accessibility increases vulnerability. Where there is accessibility, I guarantee you, there is vulnerability. Part of what all of us in awareness can do is recognize, hey, if I'm an alcoholic, I don't go to the bar to eat peanuts. If I'm made of dynamite, I don't stoke fires. I mean, we start recognizing there are some things that I just need to avoid, because if I go there, I'm probably gonna screw it up. I'm probably gonna fall prey to whatever that is. Where there's accessibility, there is vulnerability. So what are you vulnerable to? And what do you have access to? When those things go together, they're a deadly duo. They're a terminal combination. So what should I do? If the door is open, sin will come on in. So close the door. If the door is open to sin, an unhealthy, inappropriate relationship, excess in drugs, alcohol, inappropriate sexual expression, pornography, an illicit affair, you name it, whatever it is. If the door is open, close it. If the door is closed, lock it. Lock it. I don't know what may be in your realm of accessibility that creates heightened vulnerability, but if it's to one of these areas that awareness would tell you you're susceptible to, you're vulnerable to, what can you do to close that door? What can you do to close that door? Lord Jesus, we are all vulnerable to something, somewhere, sometime. Empower us to recognize that now is the time to increase our awareness and instigate our obedience, to put boundaries and buffers between us and where we are likely to go astray. Jesus, enable us to be people who want to do right and good so badly that we begin to be equally committed to closing the door on anything that would lead us down a path of destruction. Help us to defeat sin by closing the door. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We'll wrap up talking about how sin can be driven by our deceitful desires and what we can do as we close our time together to truly defeat sin. Much love.